Hello, my name is Alex and I am the host of How Bizarre Podcast, and this is episode 22 of the series. Hopefully you'll like it and the show will make some traction in the time ahead. So, what is this podcast about? It's about storytelling, and especially about stories that are obscure, unknown to the wider public, strange and sometimes inexplicable, content that somehow never got the attention it deserved. Stories that are forgotten in the mists of time regardless if they happened yesterday or some centuries ago. So if you are attracted to bizarre, shocking or just plainly weird stuff, I think you'll find this podcast very informative and perhaps even entertaining. This podcast is for mature audiences and listener discretion is advised. All that being said, now let us dive into the 22nd episode of How Bizarre Podcast. This episode is known as STENDEC. Even after 8 years till now, nothing is known about the fate of the missing Malaysian passenger Boeing 777. Despite countless speculations and theories, it is very likely that the real situation will never be known, and if it is ever found out, it could only be by chance. As in the case of a long-lost plane for which many stories were told, theories were spun and conspiracies arose. In August 1947, a British passenger Avro Lancastrian, for those who are fans of flying machines, that was an adaptation of the numerous Lancaster bombers known for night trips above German cities, on a British South American flight from Buenos Aires to Santiago, in Chile, disappeared without a trace. Call sign Stardust, this airliner was almost empty, carrying 5 crew and only 6 passengers. Company that operates this long-range airliner was British South American Airways, or BSAA in short. This case became famous among mystery lovers because of the last message of the pilot, which reads STENDEC, a word without any special meaning that was repeated at the request of the flight control several times. The word was later interpreted in various ways, from the pilot's runaway madness to the good old little green aliens who hijacked the plane. The ambiguity of the last communication only contributed to the mysticism of this case. Gasoline was added to the mysterious fire, and statements on amateur radio that even after the last registered contact with the control, they received some signals, presumably from the missing plane. The search yielded no results and the case remained unexplained. The fate of the plane has been speculated for decades, until 1998, when the first trace of the plane, part of one of the engines, was found by mountaineers in the Andes, Tupungato Glacier, some 60 miles or 96 kilometers from Mendoza at 15,000 feet or 4,600 meters. Argentine army soldiers later found the remains of a corpse, and in 2002, 55 years after the incident, DNA identification confirmed the identities of the passengers and crew and the fate of the plane that crashed with the lower part of the fuselage into a glacier. Having crashed onto a glacier and being promptly covered in snow, made any and every attempt at finding it impossible. Decades of frozen snow on a glacier was a freak event that decided the ultimate fate of the craft. Only recently the real fate of the plane was uncovered, and again, there were no aliens to blame. Another proposal was that the plane experienced decompression and oxygen-starved pilot made this bizarre message STENDEC instead of SOS or Mayday. Some of the passengers aboard would fit in an Agatha Christie novel. One was a Palestinian multimillionaire that got a diamond ring worth thousands of pounds. Another was an ex-Nazi German immigrant lady that was returning her husband's ashes after he died to Santiago, and one of the passengers was none other but one of personal King George VI messengers, always carrying important diplomatic letters to foreign dignitaries. Apparently he was carrying important mail on this trip. Something to do with British-Chilean relations about Argentina, with which Britain has strenuous relations at that period of time. Some conspiracy theories say that the plane was shot down by an Argentine meteor fighter as to stop the messenger delivering the content to the Chilean government. As this brand new conversion was en route from Buenos Aires, Argentina to Santiago de Chile, it was confronted with heavy snow and gale, but the main reason why it did disappear was a simple miscalculation about the height of the Andes in the place that was routinely overflown for years. Why this miscalculation appeared is still unknown. One answer is that jet stream was to blame, as the airlines had to clear the Andes at 24,000 feet or 7,300 meters, as it would blow into the direction head-on and thus slowing down the rate of ascent of the stardust. Indeed, if such a scenario was steeped in reality, then that would significantly decrease the aircraft ground speed. The glacier, acting in accordance with its unstable nature, completely covered the plane with ice, simply swallowed it and launched it among the legends. With the subsequent melting of the ice, after half a century, a sad reality came out of the frozen mountain womb into the light of day. For the descendants and some still living contemporaries of the passengers, finally the case got an epilogue. It is also possible that in the case of the Malaysian plane, some kind of freak scenario like the one mentioned above happened, which would leave the truth in the realm of speculation, until a counter-freak event would give some answers, one day, hopefully less than 52 years that it took for Stardust. It is bizarre that two other Lancashrians from the same company disappeared in a few years after Stardust, thus giving enough ammo to the more superstitious among us to consider that area somewhat of a damned route. I hope you all liked episode 22 of this podcast. Thank you so kindly for listening, and I will be back next time for episode 23 of the How Bizarre podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider liking, sharing, and above all, subscribe to this channel, dear listener. Because, why not? Join me next time for another bizarre adventure through space and time. Cheerio.